Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever time it is, wherever you are, whoever you are. Welcome once again to Full Fat Spoiler Chat, the show in which we, the folks at Nerd Caliber, talk about a recent piece of nerdy entertainment in depth. And we talk about what we like about it. We talk about what we didn't like about it. We talk about what worked, didn't work, what themes and messages it wants you to take away. And to do that, as all of the signage around here says, we will be spoiling it. This is Full Fat Spoiler Chat. After all, what we're spoiling tonight is The Matrix Resurrections. Number
Because nobody
four.
asked for it.
Well, that's not entirely true. Executives at Warner Brothers asked for it, and in fact, demanded it. Number four in the Matrix series, and we'll be getting into that, but of course, we are going to be spoiling it. That means. I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, first-person shooter on Facebook as a cosplay photographer, Burley_adopter on Twitter, a couple of other places doing some other things. Joining me tonight is... I don't know how to describe it. The man in the cool chair. There we go. We'll put it that way. Byron, introduce yourself.
My mighty throne.
The mighty throne.
Hello, Nerd Caliber Nation. It is I, Byron McNeil, aka Byron D0, on multiple facets of the internet. I am a contributing writer, social media person. I'm also a content creator overall for the site and the YouTube channel, and I do a little bit of art on the side. I have a webtoon series which I'm very proud of called Sisterhoods. It's a cyberpunk reinterpretation, reimagining of the Little Red Riding Hood lore with my own little touches. It's really cool, and I just put up a new episode this week.
Oh, cool.
I'm really proud of it. You should check it out. It's Sisterhoods, 2 words, spelled the way it sounds. Please support it.
Cool. Check it out, folks, on Webtoons. All right, so what we're talking about. Oh, you know what? I always forget to do our first promo of the night. Please, if you do, in fact, have a Twitch account, love to have you visit us at twitch.tv/nerdcaliber, right there on your screen, that URL. And if you're of a mind to, please follow us there. We are looking to build up our interactivity on Twitch, just like we have here on YouTube and also Facebook Live and so on. And check it out.
And don't be afraid to interact either.
Yes. We don't have anybody in the chats right now, which is kind of surprising for a Matrix topic, but you never know. So, what is the Matrix Resurrections? It is the 4th movie, as I said, in the Matrix series. It is co-written by one of the 2 co-creators of the original trilogy, Lana Wachowski, and a couple of other fantasy and science fiction novelists, for the most part, actually. And directed by Lana Wachowski, and the Wachowskis were the original directors of the original trilogy. Lana's sister Lily decided not to participate for basically mental health reasons. Couldn't take the stress. And it tells the story, as you can see from the trailers. And frankly, we're going to have to get right into spoilers right out of the gate here with this one, just to be able to tell the story at all. But in the trailers, it's clear that Keanu Reeves is back as Neo, a.k.a. Thomas Anderson, and Carrie-Anne Moss is back as Trinity. And it looks like either everything that happened in the Matrix trilogy was a delusion, and Thomas Anderson is a real person in the story, of course, and the Matrix was something he made up. Or there is a new Matrix and Neo is in it and part of it. The trilogy, spoiler for the trilogy, but of course everybody's seen it if they're even remotely interested in this movie. He dies at the end. So that would sort of lend credence to the possibility that he is actually in this story, real person in a real world, and he just imagined everything. But of course, it's the Matrix movies. You find out that's not the case. In a very interesting and creative way. And again, we're gonna have to spoil it right out of the gate. So the interesting and creative way is that Thomas Anderson in this new Matrix is a game developer who programmed one of the most popular video games ever to exist called The Matrix, which was a trilogy of games which featured, among other things, virtual reality so realistic as to be almost indistinguishable from actual physical life. And in this real world that the Matrix has created for him, the parent company of the game developers is Warner Brothers, and they want a fourth entry, to expand on the trilogy. Which is kind of genius. And
Yes.
there are new people in a new real human underground city who are trying to find him because even though he does exist in the Matrix and he's super famous, he is also deeply well hidden. Because the people in the Matrix no longer or don't remember any of the stuff that happened before. And spoiler, he doesn't actually look like himself to other people in the Matrix. And so the story is then about them, finding him, rescuing him, pulling him again out of the Matrix, but then also the difference of what the Matrix is now, why he's still or again a part of it, and how that all plays out with his relationship with Trinity, and so that's the basic core of the movie. Now, a couple of things to get out of the way. First off, Lena Wachowski, and I've read this in interviews, apparently just woke up one night and went, "Hey, that's how this could work," and got right up and started writing down the basic outlines of the plot. Whether that happened before or after the producer of the previous movies, James McTeague, basically said Warner Brothers is going to make this movie with or without you. I don't know. I know that is something that McTeague said, that Warner Brothers was going to make a fourth Matrix movie in these last couple of years, with the Wachowskis' participation or not. So, and therefore one would assume with Keanu Reeves' participation or not, Carrie-Anne Moss, I can't imagine either of those two would come back without the Wachowskis, or at least one of them. So that's basically the story of The Matrix. Released a couple of weeks ago on both in theaters and on HBO Max at the end of December. December 22nd, I think. So, geez, 3 weeks ago now. Byron, as we always do, we start with likes.
Yeah.
What worked for you? What did they try to do and actually achieve?
First things first, the meta humor, because that was definitely that first act was part of the film. So everything, like every single nod, clearly Lana Wachowski. You can't tell me otherwise that was not her doing.
Oh yeah, no. She wrote the script along with the other two novelists. There's no question. So what Byron is referring to is that there are scenes where there are meetings about well, first off, his partner, who's played by Groff, Jonathan Groff.
Jonathan Groff, yes.
Yeah. Let's fade that over here. Who Byron, of course, would remember because as King George
Frozen and Hamilton.
Yeah, from Hamilton.
Awakening.
Is his supposedly his business partner, who co-founded the company, the gaming company, with him. And so he tells Thomas Anderson that Warner Brothers is going to be making this fourth game, and from that point on, there are meetings. Christina Ricci has like this one scene where she's explaining the marketing potentials of, the Matrix 4. But then there's a whole bunch of other people, the chief designers and so on, are all sitting around conference tables, and it's just a repeated loop of everything anybody's ever said, good or bad, about a forced reboot. And it's just, at times it's deliberately hilarious. I mean, some of the statements are very funny, but it's also subtextually hilarious. But anyway, go ahead.
Absolutely. Like I said, the meta was the strongest part of this film for me. I'll say Carrie Ann Moss and Keanu Reeves look amazing.
Yep.
Especially towards the end when they reprise their badass kick-assery gear.
Yep.
Neil Patrick Harris and Jonathan Groff are definitely two walls to this franchise. Like, I mean, first of all, like MPH, channeling any and every supervillain role that he could ever play. I want to see him as the Riddler in the DCEU now.
Oh, he would be perfect as that. And again, not that there's any riddling going on here. It's a pretty straightforward, wonderfully, if he had a mustache, you would chew it. Kind of villain role.
I was gonna say, I mean, he's already dressed the part in his Halloween family photos.
Yeah,
he has the energy for it. Cast him, WB, as in Batgirl. There you go.
Ooh,
you're welcome.
All right.
But Jonathan Groff, I love the man. Been a big fan of his for many, many years. It's great to see that it's great to see him getting more off-Broadway work now. And he's definitely channeling Hugo Weaving in this performance.
Yeah. Now, again, just to be good, I'm sure he's probably getting off-Broadway work, but you mean non-Broadway work?
Yeah, non-Broadway work.
Okay.
Yep.
Because off-Broadway is a very specific term for you.
Yes,
theater
it is. You're right. My bad.
Yeah.
I'm a bad theater kid. I'm sorry, internet.
You had just said about I can't remember exactly the line, but it was something I was going to agree with heartily. But
well, it's just it's great that Jonathan Groff definitely channeled Hugo Weaving in this performance.
Yes. And that's so Jonathan Groff is kind of a recreation of Agent Smith by The Matrix, to be one of the sort of checks on Neo, on Thomas Anderson, on the One, to keep him in the virtual world, believing that he is, this game developer Thomas Anderson, who is, kind of crazy. So the reason he's seeing Neil Patrick Harris, he's seeing him as his psychoanalyst, because he apparently, they're telling him he was delusional. He believed that this Matrix was real, to the point where he tried to jump off a building because he believed he could fly. So, but other, so I'm going to just jump in here because you brought up Agent Smith. This is Yahya Abdul-Mateen II as kind of the replacement for Morpheus, but his character is a program like Smith that was written by Neo. So apparently the Matrix allows him to actually do real coding, while
he's like the ghost of he's like in the digital sense, he's Morpheus's ghost.
Well, except that his character traits were taken both from Morpheus and Agent Smith. Neo combined those two things into trying to create something that would be more effective than the two of them individually. that might have less of Morpheus's blind devotion to the myth of the One, but also way less Smith's megalomaniacal desire to conquer
Anarchist.
everything.
Yes.
Yeah,
I would. Yeah, I was gonna say. That would explain why he came off a lot more charismatic than the actual Morpheus.
yeah, yeah. Um, and they make that point about the fact that he is, when you first see um, Abdul Mateen II, he is an agent, but he's in there's a term, and I'm assuming it's a correct programming industry term, but I would call it a test server. He is in a test server that is sort of not connected to the Matrix, but is running a parallel version of it, in which Neo is playing around with a bunch of ideas, or Thomas Anderson is.
And we have a random cameo from Ellen Hallman.
Hmm?
And we have a random cameo from Ellen Hallman.
Don't
She's
know.
the fake Trinity.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's another thing, is that the people in this world don't see Trinity looking like Trinity. Only Neo does. But anyway, yeah, so go ahead. I was jumping all of you with that Agent Smith meets Morpheus thing.
No, I mean, that was like really, like, I definitely, like, Jonathan Groff has proven that he's an amazing character actor. And I love that how, like, this time around, he's depicted more as an agent of chaos than an antagonistic force.
Yes. Yeah.
He's just like he's awakened. He's just like trolling both sides. Like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend for the moment.
Yeah. And particularly the further the story goes on, it's pretty clear that, when the Matrix remade this version of Smith to, be Neo's control, they didn't realize how much Smith is, in fact, a mirror of Neo. And in the main way he's a mirror is in his his lack of ability to control him.
That's like that's like trying to make a vaccine and not removing every single toxic bit of the original virus that you're incubating it in.
Okay. At this particular point in our universe and world, I don't know that that's a comparison I'd go with, but okay. I get it. Anyway, so other things that you liked about it?
The music was definitely what I've gotten used to. It has that same bombastic techno vibe from goddamn 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm turning 40 this year. Okay. Okay. But in all seriousness, yeah. It's that. Yep. And honestly, those are my biggest positives.
Okay. All right. So I agree with pretty much everything you said there. I really do love the meta humor. We'll get into other aspects of humor. Because those things might not be on my like list. I think, like you said, Keanu Reeves, Carrie-Anne Moss are fantastic. Everybody who is brought back from the original, and it's not a whole lot of people, are fantastic. Jada Pinkett Smith is wonderful. Comic M&O official channel. Hold just a second. We got a chat here. From Comic M&O official channel, I actually enjoyed the film. Fun fact, the story is like Orpheus. He goes to the underworld to make a deal with Hades to get his lover. All right. I can see that. So was the last two movies of the original trilogy. So, but yeah. So other things I liked about the new cast. For the most part, I love Jessica Henwick. Jessica Henwick
absolutely.
as Bugs.
and using her natural accent for a change.
Yes.
I didn't know she was British.
And a trained martial artist. So that really helps. Um, I liked a lot of the updates and the innovations and the way they did different things here. Like in this shot, this is at the very beginning. This is Henwick's Bugs um, kind of looking in on the opening scene of the original Matrix movie in Neo's test server. Because it's playing out, but he has this new agent, that's a combination of Morpheus and Smith as part of it to see how things might play out differently. But her operator is also there, and that's why you can see him wearing like virtual reality goggles and all of the gear that he's on.
Mm-hmm.
The operator is also in the Matrix now, and that was a really cool thing. The fact that they do all of their logging in and logging out via, well, any reflective glass surface, but mirrors more than anything else, as opposed to phones, was really innovative. A lot of the updated thoughts, like the idea that the new city, Io, and I thought a lot about what that means, and I'm not really sure
Yeah, me either.
if there's any other depth. I mean, IO, input output, maybe. As a joke, Io, the closest moon to Jupiter, Jupiter Ascending, the terrible movie they made. Yeah,
Thank you for reminding me of that. You had a good laugh today.
maybe. But Io, guess what? Has artificial lighting that puts out enough UV to grow plants. Like, well, duh, why didn't
Yes.
Zion do that? They had, nuclear reactors, we found out.
Because they were a religious cult.
Well, yeah, kind of. Um, so yeah, a lot of there are a lot of fixes or that are put in here as updates because this is obviously even in the Matrix world, it's years later.
60 years to be exact.
Well, in fact,
I'm just looking this up.
yeah, it is 60 years, and this is a really crappy screen grab. I apologize for this, but you can see the guy in the mirror. This is what everybody in the Matrix thinks Thomas Anderson looks like. One of the ways to keep him hidden from anybody who might be trying to, find him and rescue him. Because in the Matrix, it has been, or in the real world, it's been 60 years. So Jada Pinkett Smith's Niobe is an old woman. Comic Emino. By the way, I don't know of the games are canon, but they said Morpheus died in the online game. This Morpheus is a program made by, we got into the fact of what Yahya Abdul Mateen's character is about, both a program made by Neo using the old code of Morpheus, but also Agent Smith's code. And yes, according to the Wachowskis, the game is canon, and I would be willing to bet that the reason that Lawrence Fishburne was never even offered a role was because they wanted to have that stay as canon to sort of reinforce the idea that the game that Neo supposedly made in this new version of the Matrix is also to some extent possibly real. And having Morpheus come back would make it much more difficult to sort of put that mind screw into people's heads of, maybe the game is real. And, anyway.
Okay, I found some trivia on IO. The name IO seems to have a double meaning. Reading it as letters, it seems to be an acronym for input output. Read as 10 in Roman numerals, and 10 is 2 in binary numbers, in line with the naming of Machine City 01. This could mean that IO represents the second chance for machines and humans to coexist together peacefully.
Yeah, it could. That's a stretch. You know,
I
But
was
any of
curious.
any of the interpretations are a stretch. The only one that I think makes sense is input output. Um, um,
I was personally thinking like the fact that it's it's two of the letters, it's two of the missing letters from Zion, meaning it's breaking the shackles of the past to become its own thing.
that is absolutely as good an interpretation. That would make sense too. But again, this is detail stuff, and so here's one of the things, folks. You can spend hours, certainly for the Matrix trilogy, but even just this movie alone, sweating the details and trying to figure out any of the meaning.
This is coming from a guy who wrote a site paper on Evangelion. Trust me, I know how to do that.
But and you don't need to. So here's my sort of joking comparison. The movie, when the credits starts, the movie starts playing just like the first Matrix, Wake Up by Rage Against the Machine, except it's a cover band. It's a cover by a band called Brass Against, which is known for all kinds of active, socially active work, with a female lead singer or a female sounding lead singer. And it is literally the summation of this movie. Like the original Wake Up, it's not nearly as badass as the original, and it's a lot easier to understand. No shade at Zach, but sometimes it's tough to understand Zach when he's rapping.
Yeah.
This is just as clear as a bell, as is the movie. Lana beats you over the head. You don't need to read subtext into this. Lana beats you over the head with the meaning. One, the digs at Warner Brothers and the idea of reboots and so on. But two, when you get to why Neo and Trinity are essentially recreated, Lana is telling us that yes, the first trilogy was about identity, and particularly about gender identity and about non-binary concepts, and now we're just slapping you in the face with it. Not in a bad way, but I mean, it's like, here's my message. You don't need to read into it. This is what the first movies were about. This is what this movie is about. So yeah, but you can still, there's so many other things that you can just analyze to death in this movie.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I'm going to save my summation of that for when we get into the themes.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. So Comic Amino also points out there is a lot of binary themes in here. Smith said 0 and 1, light and dark, one cannot live without the other. It's a good point. And maybe IO is literally 1-0, or 2, the second Zion. Or the second human city. Anyway. So so we're all set with likes? No,
Yep.
I was doing likes.
Yeah, you were.
I got confused. Let's see. Other things that likes. I guess I was okay with the music. It didn't really do anything for me during the course of it.
This is fair.
And now here's a weird like and dislike at the same time. I like Lana Wachowski's growth as a director and cinematographer. I really like the look.
I definitely see that.
Yeah, I really like the look of this movie. So much of this movie is shot with, this is natural light. That's not a studio out.
Yeah, no filters this time.
Well, and
less filters.
Way less filters. The only time you ever see anything that looks even filter-y is here, but that's because they're standing in the bright lights of this cafe, and they are very, traditional Matrix colors. This cafe's lighting, bright LEDs like that, but the main light is natural light coming in from the windows on the street. And I respect the heck out of that, and I deeply miss the greenwashed, not a natural world, look, and particularly I miss the framing and the action framing of the original. But
Okay, this just reminded me of something. I meant to put this in my likes, but like the fate of the Merovingian.
I could not find a good picture of him, unfortunately. So here's we'll get. I'm trying to remember. I'll make a note to remember this when we get into this, because that's definitely something that's very important to the theme of this, or one of the many themes of this movie. But yeah, the Merovingian is just the wildest ranting psychopath.
I loved every minute. I'm like, it took me a second. I'm watching my friends. I'm just like, holy crap, that's the Merovingian.
And played by the same actor.
Yes.
Excellent job. All right, so that's pretty much it as far as likes, and I don't want to make it seem like I don't have a lot of likes. There are a lot of things I really liked about this.
Same.
But there are dislikes, and I know Byron has some too. So fire away, man.
Woo-hoo. Well, first and foremost, I'm just gonna say it outright, and don't make this joke again. But who the f asked for this?
Well,
like, don't.
We know who did.
Yes, we know who did. Oh, it's like that's where a lot of my dislikes can be surmised, but I'll try to spread out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Like the energy of this film was just was superfluous at best. Like nothing about this advanced the lore of the universe of the Matrix. Like we didn't learn anything new. There was no real advancement. It's like, oh yay, Neo and Trinity are back. It's like, what now? It's like, why did aside from Neo's dastardly plot, there was no reason for them to come back except for the fact that Bugs is just like, oh, I miss. We need more humans. It's like you got who's just like, look, we got a good thing going here. The people that are in the Matrix want to stay there, and we have that statement from the horse's mouth. Let's leave it at that. But no, Bugs and company are just like,
well, I mean, yeah, but again, this is nitpicky. I don't know that you can say that, you can trust the analyst in that he's given people the choice.
Yeah.
But so here's the great, you were talking about your paper on Evangelion. You say this doesn't advance anything. It doesn't. This is the Evangelion movie, the one right after the series, the one that supposedly told us what we were actually watching. And that's why Lana made this, as far as I can tell, is to tell us, and again, in no uncertain terms, no, this is what the Matrix was about. And you're right, it doesn't advance anything new in the story or the world of the Matrix other than, little detail stuff that I really like. But I don't think that's why she made it. I think she made it to shut a lot of people up. And in that case it works. Does that make for an exciting movie?
It makes for a discussion-worthy movie. That's for damn sure.
Well, yes. Yeah, that's for sure. Did you want to expand any more on the specifics of that dislike?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I gotta say, I gotta say this. As much as I love Jada Pinkett Smith reprising the role of Niobe, that makeup, baby, what is you doing? And there was that, and then there was Thelma Hopkins, who played the botanist lady, whose name I'm forgetting.
I can't remember the character's name either, but yeah.
Yeah, I had to take a good look at her. I was like, is that Rachel from Family Matters?
Yeah,
and it was.
But why did you dislike that? I don't, I thought that was pretty cool.
No, I didn't dislike that. It's like the makeup.
Oh,
it was the makeup I hated.
Yeah, I thought it was actually pretty good makeup.
Mhm.
Just a second. I do like there is hidden digital rain in the subtle scenes. I kind of asked for this since they kept making Matrix lore like the game, only to advance is to show the analyst bosses if that happened. I'm not sure if I get what you mean there, Comic Amino. Um, anyway, sorry, Byron, go ahead.
Like I just found it very off-putting. I mean, it could have been worse. They could have pulled a Robert Zemeckis.
Which one?
Tron Legacy is the first one that comes to mind.
Okay.
Yeah,
Other thoughts?
um, other thoughts. Honestly, I would like my biggest like all my gripes are just like the superfluous nature of his existence. Like it was just like I said, I don't think I can articulate any. It's just like it didn't need to exist. It was the second biggest soulless cash grab from Warner Brothers in 2021.
Yep.
The first being Space Jam: A New Legacy. At least this one was. At least the Matrix was more subtle about it.
Right. Which was also, by the way, a reboot of a story about a virtual world. So, um, so yeah, batting 1,000 there, Warner Brothers. So I will just say, I agree that it didn't need to happen, but since it was going to happen, one way or another, I appreciate that Lana Wachowski basically grabbed it by the reins and said, I'm going to make the biggest FU to Warner Brothers anybody's ever done. And while doing it, making a big FU to the critics who complain about the identity issues at the core of the first three movies. So, did it need to be made? No. But Lana made one of the best things out of it that she could have, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Anything else on the dislikes?
Not really. That was really it. Was like all anything else I could say would just be me repeating that point.
Yeah. So I think I made it fairly clear. I don't dislike its existence, because again, even though it didn't need to happen, Lana made it happen in an incredibly interesting way.
I mean, it was dumb, but I don't like. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So again, Comic Amino Smith said it. Whether be Lana did it or not, again, I don't. You got to be more specific about what you're referring to because we're moving through topics pretty quickly. So things I didn't like about it. Well, I missed, and I've mentioned this. I missed. While I appreciate Lana Wachowski's new filmmaking credit or skills, I missed the look of the original trilogy. In no small part, the framing of it. So the action scenes in the original trilogy are framed in a lot of ways like a manga panel. They or like a more modern, realistic action, movie like The Raid, or even a series like the hallway fight in Daredevil. That, probably one camera, really long takes of incredibly well trained or well practiced people doing martial arts.
Is it bad that I thought of Michael Bay article when
the what?
The Michael Bay article about him remaking The Raid.
When you that
movie up.
I mean, who knows? It's got the original writer and director involved, so yeah.
Fair.
But
continue.
Yeah. So they have Wachowski has given up that look for kind of bog standard modern, Born Identity, super fast edits, handheld, not quite shaky cam like Born, but still, you don't ever get to see, even in the scene where they kind of recreate the, I know Kung Fu fight between Neo and Morpheus.
That was funny.
It was funny, but you also don't ever really get to see that kind of long take, which is in the original movie. Again, it's like a lot of really fast cuts. And as someone else has put, I said this in my review, but someone else put it even more bluntly, you've got frickin' John Wick. Why are you not letting him John Wick? Oh, it's not like Keanu Reeves can't. He absolutely can. But
In the defense, I this is just me spitballing here, but it's like because that's not what the Matrix is about for her. Like it's not about the action. That's probably why.
I agree to some extent, but I also think that it's also so while Neo and Keanu Reeves is the primary protagonist of the entire movie, the most important character in this movie is Trinity.
Oh, that reminds me of another. Just like I forgot. I hated the fact that Trinity, for the majority of the film at least, was reduced to a princess in a effing tower.
Yeah, they explain why pretty well, but I agree. But again, I think that sets up the fact that the fact that even though he says he knows kung fu, he doesn't really anymore to the extent that he used to. He winds up using the, sort of that push power that he brings down the Sentinels with in the second movie, a lot in this movie instead of using his kung fu. I think they're all setting that up so that when Trinity finally realizes she's Trinity and wakes up, Trinity becomes so much more badass.
You go Super Saiyan.
Yeah, she goes Super Saiyan. So comic Amino. The scene where Neo and Smith were talking about Matrix 4 games, Smith was talking about WB making Matrix 4 without their company or not, symbolizing WB doing the film with. Well, yes, yeah, we talked about that earlier on before you jumped in. So yeah, so I dislike the way the action is filmed, but I kind of understand why. If that is the case, I don't know for sure that was Lana Wachowski's decision to make Neo less powered and make his fight scenes less exciting, so that at the end, when Trinity realizes, her ability, that it becomes, more impressive. That may be the case.
Who knows?
The other things, I talked about the humor. The meta humor is wonderful. It's just fantastic. When they let particularly Neil Patrick Harris get a little too Neil Patrick Harris, I found that humor out of place. And not drastically, but it's like, okay, that's not a Matrix. So much of this is not a Matrix tone movie. From the lighting, from the cinematography, from the action, shooting, and so on. While it is absolutely 100% a Matrix theme movie, and story and plot. So I guess that's my biggest dislike, is that the tone is so not Matrix.
Yeah, definitely not.
All right, so Byron, theme, tone, message, and so on. There's a bunch of them here, and some of them are really big.
One big theme that sticks out for me is the toxicity of restorative nostalgia.
Yep.
Like, it's there on full display. Like with the references, like with the shade being thrown at Warner, with Bugs' character being so desperate to bring Neo back just so they can free more minds. It's like, meanwhile, you have Niobe who's like, we have an arrangement. Like, I'm sorry that you don't like it fully, but we have an arrangement. We're trying to make things better.
Yep.
Like, but you want to screw around more than you did. Like, it was it was only through plot convenience that Bugs that Bugs got a second chance.
Yeah, that's true. Um, so other themes, other tone or message that that you think was key to the movie?
Um, like basically every point you made in like your likes and dislikes about restating the whole identity, like especially in that scene where Trinity's just like, I hate it when you call me that name.
Yes, Tiffany. So
Yes.
to her husband and everybody else in the Matrix, she is Tiffany,
Yep.
which is just perfect, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. Like if that isn't an allegory for gender, I don't know what the hell is.
Yep. Um, all right. So I think I agree about, there's so many themes about the problems of reboots of as you say restorative nostalgia, um, that it is a big part of it, and it's a big part of her not only fu to Warner Brothers, but frankly to a lot of the audience. Um,
To anyone that ever, to anyone that critique not just her, I mean not just her work, but like her life choices.
right. Well, yeah, there a lot of the themes in this are Lana basically telling people like, no, this is really what I meant, and if you don't like it, go pound sand. Um, so as you mentioned, the theme of identity, the theme of duality in a way that is, not a binary. Um,
Like you even see that in Smith's character, whereas like he's not necessarily like he's not a good guy, but like he is one he became one of my new favorite anti villains.
yes, he is a power. He is a completely self-centered power, but he's very smart and he understands why it would serve his self-centered interests to play with other powers.
Yes.
So, but the theme, and this is one of the things I really like about how, in almost every instance, when they make something new that alters or newly informs something from the original trilogy, it actually makes that make sense. So the reason Neo and Trinity have been basically reconstructed by the machines, and are in pods that are separated from the other pod farms, is because they discovered that when Neo and Trinity are in proximity, they generate an awful lot of power. And that is basically why they're brought back. They are a way more efficient battery than normal humans. And
Together they
ultimately,
make Cyber Jesus 2.0.
right, but they can't, but the machines have to keep them in the Matrix and unaware of each other and not rest, because if they actually physically touch, that's how they become more powerful than the machines can handle. Which they don't spell this out explicitly, but in the final movie, well, at the end of the second movie and then the final movie, the reason Neo is not like the last 5 versions of the One is because he makes the choice for Trinity, and that connection makes him as powerful as he is. They don't.
Power of love.
Well, it's not the power of love. It's the power of duality. They are sort of both a being called the One, and they are two aspects of it, which plays very much into Lana Wachowski's gender identity, her transgender status. And even though it's spelled out a lot more clearly in this, like they touch and, Trinity wakes up, Trinity becomes this insanely powerful thing. It takes a while, right up until literally the end, for Neo to regain his ability to fly, his, basically godlike powers. But Trinity has them, well, it takes her a while too, but Trinity has them as part of the finale.
Gives MPH that
Yeah,
sweet roundhouse.
Just one of the best special effects. Kicks his jaw off, almost off. It's like hanging by a thread. It's beautiful.
Yeah, Keanu's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Like, I love that scene.
So this new interpretation isn't that new an interpretation. If this wasn't the fact, then in the original trilogy, Neo would have been just like the previous 5, the ones. He would have accepted the deal. Everything would have gone on. Zion would have been partly destroyed, but a new Zion, there would have been enough people left to establish a new Zion. The cycle would have continued just like it had 5 times. Neo changed that, and now that we've seen this movie, the reason he changed it is because of his closer connection to his other half. You can call it the person he loves, and that's true too, but this makes it very clear that they are half of a whole being. Or they are whole beings that combined are a more everything being. And I think that sense of, non-binary status, it's 2 people, but, it's not that they are necessarily male, female, binary individuals. I think it's very, very important to Lana's story, and again, informs a lot of the action of the previous trilogy. So I think that's a hugely important theme in here. I think another one is you were talking about the toxic nature of restorative nostalgia, the toxic nature of the internet itself.
Yeah.
So the first movie is about the very beginning of the World Wide Web. They dial in on phones. The Matrix, the virtual world, is a cyberpunk, Wild West, dangerous criminal operation environment
that we know very little about.
This movie, just the fact that they interact with the Matrix via what are essentially screens. They're mirrors, but any reflective glass surface. This is a movie about current social media. So the hackers, like bugs and so on, can get in anywhere now. There doesn't have to be a phone. As long as there's a reflective surface, a mirror in a bathroom, anything, they can get in somewhere. The fact that the analyst no longer uses agents, well, they still use agents, but the agents don't rapidly take over somebody else's, a human's body to rapidly move from place to place. The analyst just has swarm mode, where the denizens of this virtual world, basically the people on social media, become a swarm to attack the main characters.
Kind of like a flame war.
Literally like everything that anybody who has ever offered a contrary opinion, particularly a controversial contrary opinion, on the internet has had to deal with. The key to that is, you brought up the Merovingian. The Merovingian scene is literally Lana saying, everybody who thinks that this should be the way it used to be is crazy, like homeless person, wildly ranting, psychopathic crazy. And that's why she made the Merovingian look like that and act like that.
And like, I remember seeing the other, like, I forgot what they were called, but I'm like going to call them vestiges of like these past vestiges.
Yeah.
You could to an extent take them as like older concepts on the internet that no longer exist as well.
True. Or concepts that really are trying very hard to stay relevant. And that's the
Like
Merovingian,
Twitter.
completely. He wants to have things go back the way they were so he can stay important. And that is Lana 100% saying, all you people who do this on the internet, that's you. You're a ranting old man, homeless psychopath.
Ben Shapiro.
Well, yeah. um,
That, it must be. It must be. It's getting kind of cold in here. I don't know what happened.
so anyway, um, do you recommend it, Byron? And on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you put it?
This is a hard one. This is a hard one because I have so many emotions, frustration, a little bit of humor. I mean, it's worth watching once if you're under the influence. If you're curious and you have like a good stock of alcohol, go right ahead and check it out. I watched it when I was drunk.
So, scale of 1 to 10?
Uh, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10, honestly.
Yep. I can see that. So I would say watch it. But if you are really a Matrix super fan and you're one of those people who just can't stand any sort of change to the nature of the entertainment you like, you're going to hate it. You're going to absolutely despise it. But you should watch it to see how a talented filmmaker takes a horrible situation, does the best they can with it, and shoves it right to the people who put them in this horrible situation.
Yep.
It is a masterclass in biting the hand that feeds you.
But I bet they're gonna make money hand over fist from it.
Well, I mean, it's made okay. I don't know if it's made its budget. I haven't seen any of the final numbers. It's not raking in the bucks, that's for sure. They probably will. They'll probably do well.
In China,
Yeah, I don't know what the international release numbers are. So I would say I don't think I can give it more than a 6 out of 10. I'm a little bit more copacetic on recommending it to people.
I almost give it a 6.
Yeah, but you have to look at it as a product of the franchise that it's in, and as a Matrix movie, it is barely above average.
It's definitely on par with Revolution.
Yeah, if it wasn't a Matrix movie, I would probably give it a much higher recommendation because the ideas in it are really innovative and the theme and the message is just, so strong. But yeah, if watching things with chemical enhancement is your thing, watch it just to watch Lana Wachowski literally rip a new one into Warner Brothers. It's worth it for that alone.
Morbid Curiosity is fun. Morbid Curiosity is fun.
It's certainly worth it for the morbid curiosity. All right, folks, that is it. Last promo of the night, that would be our Patreon. If you are of a mind and want to check it out, it's patreon.com/nerdcaliber. Love to have you as patrons. 3 tiers. The lowest one is just $2 whole. We use it to get to cons, assuming cons happen. Omicron, stop it. Everybody's going to get it. I'm not going to say who. And all appropriate notifications have happened. But one of our team members at an event for our team has contracted Omicron. They are doing fine. But still. So please, folks, be safe out there. So our next shows, Monday is No Nerd Caliber, and it is different interpretations of myth. So as the example I used on a previous show, Bullfinch's mythology would not work because it's a telling of Greek and Roman myth. The Netflix anime Blood of Zeus would work if you hate yourself. and you have no taste. But it is a different interpretation of Greek myth.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. Oh, yeah, it is. So, that's the criteria. And the reason we're doing that is because we are doing on Thursday, our next Full Fat Spoiler Chat is not what I said a couple of days ago, is The Eternals, which is all about big mythological stuff. So, and then of course on Tuesday we have our Nerd Week Live where we talk about nerd news, and some interesting stuff has already dropped. So we will see you at one of those upcoming shows. Byron, give us a goodbye.
Hey guys, thanks for watching tonight. This was a very interesting conversation. Glad to get all the feedback that we did. Again, check out my webtoon series, Sisterhoods, on again Webtoons. Duh. And if you just want to check out my process in general, go to my Instagram. It's BD0Art. That's spelled BDZEROART on Instagram.
Awesome. Please go check that out, folks. And thank you again for in the chat, Comic Amino. That was a lot of good stuff there. Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely.
We will see you at an upcoming show. In the meantime, again, please stay safe, folks.